everybody. This is Bob Goodwin, and welcome to another episode of Career Club Live. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you're watching or listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, please make sure you subscribe. Episodes are coming out weekly, and we would love to make sure that you don't miss anything. This week, from the Career Club side, we are featuring Next Placement, which is Career Club's answer to outplacement. So if you're an HR executive and you're faced with having to transition employees due to difficult business decisions that you have to make, we would love for you to learn a little bit more about Next Placement, where we're focusing on what's next, not who's out, by taking a more human-centric, empathetic approach to transitioning employees. With that, I would like to welcome our guest. This is Julie Bauke, who will be on with us today. I need to read this because her background is so impressive. I have to read all this stuff. So with over 30 years of experience in career management and human resources, Julie's personally coached hundreds of people, spoken to groups and companies across the country, and is a frequent media topic expert on all things career. Just since the fall of 2021, she's been featured on 116 media outlets, including TV, radio, and print media, for her workplace and career expertise. Julie is the founder of the Bauke Group, TPG for short. Their newest program is the TPG Career Catalyst, which brings the tools of career management inside organizations who are looking for innovative ways to attract and retain talent. It's also available to individuals who are seeking clarity on the best path from where they are to where they want to be. And with that, a warm welcome and hello to my friend, Julie Bauke.
Hey, Bob.
It is so good to see you, Julie. How are you today?
I'm good. We have lots to cover, and I'm excited. I'm excited to share lots of good stuff with your watchers/listeners.
No, that's awesome. Now, where do we find you today? Where are you?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, where where the weather is lovely. This is my third winter here, so I like to say I live a flexible/nomadic life, kind of between Cincinnati and Scottsdale, and sometimes points in between.
Awesome. Well, it's so nice to have you. And I know that you stay super busy. And given your media schedule, I'm so glad we can be the cherry on top of all of that. Your crowning achievement, being on Career Club.
Exactly.
No, but we've known each other for a number of years. And I have enjoyed your book, Don't Pee on Your Shoes, and so many of the things that you've done, and where we've in Cincinnati been helping people, but also nationally helping folks find careers that matter to them and really find meaning in their work. But since I know you, let's give our audience a little bit of chance to get to know you better. So as is our tradition, we'd like to ask a few questions to help folks get to know you. So where were you born and raised?
Troy, Ohio, a little 25,000-ish population town, about 20 minutes north of Dayton, Ohio. Most people say I've been through it because it's a stop on I-75 from Florida up to Michigan and Canada. So it's a cute little town, and I had a wonderful upbringing there. And but since then, I've lived in a lot of big cities across the country. And as I always tell people, moving around from city to city, a lot of times by myself as a single person early on, was one of the most meaningful things I did, because it really opened my mind up and taught me to be resilient and tenacious and connect with all kinds of people, which I think still serves me well today.
No, I think that's a great point. My poor children have moved 7 times. And so we finally stopped in Cincinnati a few years ago. But everything that you said, it's very true, to see different parts of the country, different opinions and lifestyles, and just it's variety is good. And I think that it's made our children very kind of flexible in their adult lives. Just very quickly, where'd you go to school?
I'm usually say I'm a proud Purdue Boilermaker, but if you follow college basketball, I was a very not proud Purdue Boilermaker, as they went down in spectacular fashion in the first round to a team that wasn't even supposed to be in the tournament. So I'm just now starting to get my Purdue wear out again, because as USA Today said, they are officially the choke masters of the NCAA tournament. But wow. But yes, I kid. I went to Purdue and absolutely loved it. And my son went there too, and I was just so proud to share that with him. And I absolutely loved it there.
That's cool. And then West Lafayette, right?
Lovely West Lafayette, yes.
And so you mentioned your son, a little bit about your family.
Two boys. One lives in Chicago, that works in the Chicago area and is married, and another son who lives and works in the Boston area. And so they're all spread out, and which I love for them because I think I don't know, I'm very partial to getting different experiences in your lives. And
Yes.
they're 28 and 30. And it's just nice to look at your kids and say, I'm proud of the human beings they've become.
I empathize with that. That really resonates. And then, because I talked about 30 years of in the HR space and stuff, do you mind just kind of painting a little bit of a picture of your career?
Yeah. Yeah, I was a business major, but what I loved, the thing that resonated most with me about our business degree options was the human resources option. So I did that for about 16 years, and those were a lot of my moves around the country.
Yeah.
And I think in everything that we do, there's a lot of learning, and some of it is what I want to do more of, but some of it, and equally valuable, is what I don't want to do anymore or what I want to do less of. And I could feel the higher up I went in human resources, the less happy I was.
Mm.
And I realized that there were the things I liked to do were required less of me the higher up I got. And I just realized that, what I really loved out of everything was talking to people about their careers. And at that time, when you're in human resources, you're sort of the complaint department. And so people would come to me with their complaints. And I used to really want to say to them, although it was not appropriate for an HR person to say, I always wanted to say to them, why are you still here if it's so bad? And it really became kind of let's just say my lifetime quest, career time quest, which was, why do people stay in jobs they don't like or that are no longer serving them? And when I left there, I went to work in outplacement, as it was called at the time. And it was very different then. I worked for a global career services provider where I got the opportunity to ask people that question. We worked with people who had generally been let go, generally for not for anything bad they did, but just, a company and economic change. And so many of those people would say to me, Bob, they would say, yeah, they did me a favor. I was really unhappy. And so then I was allowed to say, why did you stay? And what I learned was fear, lack of confidence, our human being drawn to the status quo, the comfort level, and sometimes the devil we know is better than no devil at all. But it was also, I don't know what else I do. I don't know what else I'm qualified for. And so they would wait until somebody else made that decision for them. And that's just tough on so many levels. And so I did that for 9 years. Then I started my own thing in 2007 with the desire to work with people throughout the career life cycle, not just when they lost their jobs, because we don't make good decisions or our best decisions when we're in those moments of panic. And so that's what inspired me to start my own business in 2007.
No, I think that's awesome. And having known you for a number of years and actually spoken with people that you have worked with, I know that you have made a huge difference to people because, as you say, oftentimes that decision needs to be made for people. But one of the blessings in that is it creates time and space to take a step back, be guided through a process with somebody like you, say, all right, well, let's do a little bit of work here and let's figure out what do you want to do? And then I want to just pick up on another point that you made about, and also identify what do you not want to do? That's one of my biggest pieces of advice for young people, because they don't have the breadth of experience.
Right.
It's at least the way I say it. It's a test for negatives. At least figure out what you don't like and don't go do that. It's still a little bit like, being a kid and with sports or musical instruments, you have to try stuff. To figure out what you might like. But if you know you don't like something, please don't do that.
Think of it like a funnel. So at the top, here's all the things you could possibly do. And you start to move down that funnel in terms of, well, I know I don't like this. I tried it and I don't like it. I'm not necessarily good at it. But here are the things I want to do more of. And so it's really this career-long quest to improve every step that you make.
Yep, I love it. And we'll talk about creating that narrative here in a bit. Just super quick, when you're not doing great work helping people and organizations and career management things, what do you like to do for fun?
I love to go to concerts. I have a younger brother who's a concert fiend, and he and I travel together to go see concerts around the country, rock concerts usually. I love dogs, and I love raising money for organizations that help um, animals that are mistreated or abused.
Mm.
And I love the Bengals, and I love my Boilermakers and my friends. And so I have a very full life that makes me happy.
No, that's fun. And then, and we're not going to spend too much time on this, but just kind of quickly, either favorite 3 concerts that you've been to or who you dying to go see.
Mm. So last November, my brother and I met in Vegas and went to see Aerosmith
Mhm.
at their residency at the MGM, and it might be the last concert they ever do because Steven Tyler got sick after that show, and they haven't been on the road since.
Oh,
What's
wow.
interesting about that is Aerosmith was also my very first concert I ever went to when I was 16.
Mhm.
And I would say I've seen the Eagles about 5 or 6 times, and AC/DC, believe it or not. I saw them in Detroit at Ford Field, and they rocked it. And so those are the three that stick out the most in my mind.
And who do you want to go see?
Mm. You know, I would love to see the Talking Heads, but they will not tour again. That's a group I've seen David Byrne live, but I've not seen the old Talking Heads. Unfortunately, most of the ones I'd want to see, like Prince, I'm not going to have that opportunity. So when it comes to the ones that are still touring that I'd love to see, it's hard to think of any because generally, if I want to see it, I find a way to go make it happen.
There you go. Awesome. That's cool. All right. So I learned, see, this is the beauty of doing the icebreakers. I learned stuff about you I didn't know, and I've known you
Yeah,
for a long
there we
time.
go.
So today's topic is taking control of your career. And you shared something recently that said, according to a March 23rd study by Indeed.com, 5 of the top 7 reasons people leave their jobs can be connected to the need to have some control over their career path, whether that be growth, feeling valued, seeking more of something that matters to them. And I think that's such an interesting statistic. What, just sort of top line, what do you make of that?
What is so interesting about that, Bob, is that has been true for decades.
Hmm.
We back in the 80s or 90s, there was a survey done where this organization asked managers what they thought was most important to their people. And then they compared that to the results when they asked the people what was most important to them. There were 10 things, and they had to rank them. Managers put salary number one in terms of what they thought their people wanted, and the people put it straight dead center in the pack, either 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so that disconnect has existed for a very long time, but it pops up when as the economy goes through and therefore the job market goes through all these ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Compare 2008 and that horrible recession to now, just basic econ 101, so different just in terms of what people are looking for, what's available, the unemployment rate. But there are certain things that stay the same, and those are our human needs and wants. We all have a desire to be connected, to know that we matter, to know that we are a part of something that we care about, and to see a path and a future for ourselves. Yet companies, the way they've been run, and we're starting to see some change, which I think is good, but I saw it in when I first started in the workforce in the 80s, the 90s, the zeros, the tens. If you think about kind of the old way of leading, it's top down.
Yeah.
It's, I'll tell you what's good for you. I'll tell you when it's time for you to be promoted. I'll tell you when you're ready to move. And what was generally missing from that was any conversation or any input from the individual. The assumption was we all want to be promoted. We all want to be managers. And we've lost that ability to actually connect with people and find out what matters to them and help them create a situation, a process, a path, whatever you want to call it, where they can get what they want out of work instead of just assuming everybody's driven by money, status, title. Sometimes people, when you ask them what they want, because they don't know how to articulate what they want, the only thing that they know to talk about is money. But money it's not a motivator. It can be a dissatisfier. If you're underpaid, that's going to be burning. I mean, that's going to be your issue. But if you are paid fairly, then it's the other things that matter that will determine if you come to an organization and if you stay. And organizations still don't get that. And so it's fascinating to watch leaders of organizations today try to deal with Gen Z because they're trying to use the same management style that presumably worked for the last several decades. And what's interesting is COVID, if you just take that 20, that 2.5, 3 year period, there are certain people who believe that COVID was an outlier and that it was, but the truth is, what I mean by that is, the truth is everything that we're seeing right now, all the changes in work and what people expect from work, every one of those changes was coming anyway.
Yeah.
COVID simply masked it and made it look like it was an aberration. So when your Elon Musks of the world, your Jamie Dimons of the world pound their desks and say, everybody back in the office, they are to some extent surprised when people say, yeah, no thanks, and are willing to move on and go find something else.
Yeah.
And not to say, yes, sir, anything you say, sir, which is what boomers did. And so it's the whole world of work is changing. But what doesn't change is what people want at their core. And leaders and organizations are so tone deaf when it comes to this and so unwilling to do the work to create the workplaces that people actually want to come and stay in.
Yeah. So great points. And, one of the ways that I describe, you're talking about COVID and how that was, catalytic in some ways is before COVID, and maybe this is sort of the boomer mentality too, the frame was work and my life needed to fit into that frame. So I'll travel 70% of the time. I'll do your commute. I'll do whatever you say, right? Because the frame is work. And then with COVID and literally life and death and, just major reset button, it's like, whoa. You know what? I actually like being home and having dinner and my daughter coming home from school and me being there. And it's like, I think the frame actually is my life. And work needs to fit into that.
Yeah.
And so some of the points that you're making about, money is a thing. And I'm not saying that it's not a thing, but to your well-made point, it could be a major dissatisfier, but it doesn't cover all the other needs. And I think
it doesn't.
The myth. As long as they pay you a lot, you'll put up with anything.
Right. I heard this phrase lately, and I just love it. We all deserve to have a career that serves our life. And I just, in fact, it's one of my web designers is working on my new website that came up with that in their branding outline. I was like, ooh, I love that. And it's true. And we all deserve to have a career that serves our life.
I love it.
Instead of the life that serves our career is kind of the opposite of that. So, And so it's this, interestingly, people, wring their hands and clutch their pearls over Gen Z. But when you look at the number of people that left the workforce for good, in other words, didn't go to something else right away, during COVID, the number was 5.25 million people. 3 million of those were boomers. And so we think about, lazy Gen Z. Nope, they're not lazy. In some ways, they work a lot harder than we did, but just differently. Yeah. And, like in any generation, there's lazy people. And so you look at, boomers, it's very interesting. Baby boomers said, okay, maybe these people have it right. And so baby boomers were pulled from their four walls of their workspace, which is the only place they've ever lived, and started to discover that there was a life outside of work. But what we're seeing now is employers are trying to entice some of them back by offering flexibility, by offering, you design your work, we'll pay you this. And some baby boomers are saying, yeah, I'm getting a little bored. I'll come back and do that. Or in some cases, they need the money. But the worker still has the upper hand. And employers keep waiting for it to go back the other way. And just demographically speaking, in terms of the number of people in the job market, it's not going to.
It's not
And
going
so
back.
you better start creating a workplace that allows people to grow, to set a path, to have career conversations, and stop treating them like they're replaceable. Because because that top down, I'm going to tell you what to do because I'm your boss, it's not working anymore. And so you can try all you want, but you're not going to get the results you want that way.
Essentially, I've never really kind of thought of it, but you just made me think of this, which is that they're replaceable, which is sort of the resource part, because that's a commodity, right? What are your resources? So we've got wood, and we've got water, and we make stuff, and these are the resources, and kind of forgetting the human part of this, right? And it's the human part that's kind of more properly coming into focus, and maybe less the resource part of it. But I want to make sure that we're kind of get to focus on the thesis behind Career Catalyst, and in thinking of it both from the organization's side of the equation and the workers side, the professional side of the equation. So I'll let you pick which route you want to go.
Yeah. So how this happened is our new program called Career Catalyst that's now available on our website. We're in the process of redoing our website. So, that's fun. That's about as fun as 10 simultaneous root canals, I got to tell you. But what happened was last summer, I got a call from a company in Michigan who said, "We got your name. Our people want to know, they want the tools on how to manage their careers right here inside our company. They like our company, but they want the tools to manage their career. Can you help us with that?" Of course, you always say yes, right? So we did a webinar in July, and then we did a workshop 60 days later, and it was beyond successful. It was like people's heads exploded. Like it was stuff they'd never heard before, but it made total sense. Because the reality is your career, I always say it's called your career for a reason. And to think that your boss is your career mommy or your career daddy or your HR department is nuts. And so companies are like saying, all these people are coming to us and say, "What's next in my career?" They're like, And I always say, don't outsource that to anybody, because first of all, if you expect your boss to figure that out for you, they aren't even managing their own career properly. So why would you give them the space to manage yours? And so I realized that we needed to have something that brought the tools of smart career management to everybody. And so I stopped, and I spent 6 months with a coach who helps people create products, online courses, and processes. And we developed the Bauke Group, the TBG Career Catalyst. And what I love about it is, whether you are sitting at home unemployed, trying to figure out your next step, whether you're inside a company and unhappy at the company, but you don't know what else to do, or you're sitting inside your company and you love the company, you're just trying to figure out what your next step is in the company, or you're in and I also have made this available. I'm going to make it available for professional associations as an added value to their members. Let's just call it a career kit, a career toolkit. And what I wanted to do was create something that didn't require people to hire us as coaches, because it's expensive. And so I created something that could be utilized by anybody, whether you're 22 or 62. I've worked with NFL players, NBA players, CEOs, accountants, everybody. And what I love about what we do is the verbs are the same, it's just the nouns are different. And so I have different conversation with an attorney than somebody retiring from the NFL. And so I took all of our best practices and put it into a 7-step process, the 7 steps to intentional career management. And it is something that, first of all, there's like more me in videos than maybe you're ready for. I mean, it's just, me telling you, get busy, and here's how to do it. And so it is masterclass videos, it's workbooks, it's case studies, it's templates, and it's the hard questions that you may not want to answer, but you have to. And what I love about it is the output of it is a one-page career plan that you can then use to ignite your search or have a conversation with your boss. And we made it so affordable because, that number of people who are career unhappy has not moved in decades, despite everything that's gone on in the world, hasn't moved. And I firmly believe that it's because people don't know how. And when you talk about a career plan, people look at you like you have horns. But when you talk about a financial plan or a vacation plan, people are like, oh, I'm all about that. So this career plan. So we created this career catalyst for an individual. It's the princely sum of $97. So we made it super cheap because I want it to get out to as many people as possible.
So what I think is, among many things that's interesting, but just kind of going back to the problem statement, which is why are people not as intentional as they could be or should be with their own careers? And oftentimes it's basically a pinball strategy of I react to the last thing that hit me, and exactly. That could be, Julie called me up and she said I'd be a great fit for this. So I went and did that. Right.
Yes.
And then we left and went to another company. She called me up and said, hey, come join me over here. We're building a team. I go, okay. And it's just like I said, it's like a pinball machine. I'm the ball and other people are the paddles hitting me around the workplace. And I just sort of go to wherever I go. But as you say, you would never just blindly throw your savings into things. And well, I don't know. I'm just waiting for somebody to call me and tell me what to invest in.
Right.
Where are you going on vacation? I don't know. I'm waiting for somebody to call me and tell me where I should go.
As human beings, we're not very good at self-analysis. We tend to downplay what we're good at. We tend to downplay our marketability. We tend to lock ourselves into, well, I'm an accountant. So I always use this very simple example. Let's say you're an accountant and you work in a traditional accounting firm, but you love the arts and you spend your weekend going to museums and you actually paint on the side. Sometimes it's as simple as a little pivot that can skyrocket your career happiness. So let's say you explore art organizations need accountants. So let's say that you explore taking your accounting skills to an organization in which you will have closer proximity to art. How would that bring the sectors of your life together in a way that is meaningful for you? And I think sometimes people don't think in terms of turning that knob slightly. Instead, all they think is, and pet peeve alert here, when someone old enough to know better says, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So we really are asking, and I just want to say, you're grown up, sister. Come on. And so it's we ask ourselves, the questions we ask ourselves are so big that we don't even begin to know how to answer them. And so we say, well, I can't. I've had people say to me, well, here's what I'd love to do, but I can't do that. And I'll go, why not? Well, and I'll go, well, why don't we rephrase that into, I can't do that right now. Maybe it's because you still have kids at home and you can't take that risk. What if you can't do it right now? Or so I can't do that. And I'll say, well, has anybody ever done that? Well, yeah. Well, then why can't you? And so we are managing between your ears, which is one of the 7 mistakes. Failing to manage between your ears is one of the 7 mistakes of job search in my book, Stop Peeing on Your Shoes. But it's failing to see your possibilities, failing to take into account how other people see you, and being open to some healthy level of risk, that to know that you have to make some calculated moves. But like you said, just bouncing around is and I talk to people like that sometimes. I'm like, wow, it's literally they are going with somebody else's assessment, as you said, of them versus what they really want. So we were never taught to get clear. Think about it. When you and I came into the job market, we were still very much entrenched in career planning was getting a job with the best company you could and hanging on for dear life for 40 years. That was a career plan. And so we're not that far away from that. And we're just coming into this, and Gen Z's kicking our butts to get there. We're just coming into that. No, I deserve to be happy at work. I deserve to like what I do. But there's a huge gap between believing that and understanding how to get from where you are now to there. And that's what this program is designed to do, is help you get super self-aware, help you think 360 about yourself and your life, and then find a career that matches up with that instead of the other way around. So we really are, the sausage is being made right now in terms of how the workforce is evolving. And I think it's exciting. I think it's scary for a lot of people. But if you're a person who loves possibilities and loves to stretch yourself and isn't afraid or completely risk averse, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm going to pick up on one thing that you just said, which is being risk averse. There's always risk. There's the risk of, hey, I need you to come to the conference room and the HR lady's in there and
right.
Here's your severance. We've had to make a tough decision. So I'm always like, pick your poison. Like, do you want them to do this, or do you want to do this? But,
that's right.
Right. But kind of getting two things. One is your happiness equation, is highly analogous to what we talk about baking a cake, which is, what are you good at? What do you care about? How can you support yourself? And then you add an extra layer, which I think is very helpful, which is, and what's the environment look like?
Right.
That's around me.
So yeah, our career happiness formula, what are you good at? What do you like to do? You can be good at something and not like it, and vice versa. What can you get paid to do? And the components of that are, what's the market paying for what you do? That has to work for your life. And then what do you need for your life? And the fourth is culture, doing it in a place, in a way you can be successful. And the trick is, you've got to balance all four of those things at the same time. I mean, a four-legged stool, if you've got it going on and one of those legs gets kicked out from under you, you will fall over. And so it's a constant monitoring that you have to go through. And I start with that premise in this course. So it's really, you walk through the 7 steps based on the career happiness formula so that you have the ability to make good decisions for yourself instead of outsourcing it. I mean, Bob, this will absolutely resonate with you. I've talked to job seekers. I remember this one guy I talked to, and he said, well, I'm networking. I'm not getting anywhere. We all know that networking is still the number one way to get a job. I've networked with 120 people. And I said, well, tell me what you're looking to do. And he couldn't. I'm like, wow. So you have wasted not only your time.
I call that net wasting. I call that you're not networking, you're net wasting. But yes.
I love that. Absolutely. Yes. You can't outsource it. You can, once you have some clarity about what you'd like to do more of, less of, never again, you can reach out to key people in your network to have them help you maybe connect some dots on how what might that look like in your organization. But I don't know what I want to do, what do you think I ought to do, is so unattractive. And I try to tell people that, and they get all offended. I'm like, it's just like, tell me about yourself. You have to be able to answer that question in a way that inspires action.
You talked about the Bengals a minute ago, or at the beginning. And oftentimes we will talk about Super Bowl ads. And so, why do you buy a Super Bowl ad? Because everybody's watching. So I'm in front of millions and millions and billions of people with my ad. I'm networking like crazy, Julie. I'm like, I've met 120 people. Yeah, but your ad's terrible. Like,
yeah, right.
I don't know what do you like? I don't know. That's a great question. Well, if you don't know, how am I supposed to know? And I for sure can't help you. But let's start to tie this to the 7 steps. It's on your website, so I don't think you're giving away anything here.
No, I'm not. Absolutely not.
But the step 1 is around self-awareness and self-knowledge, which again I think is by itself huge.
Huge.
Because most of us suck at that, and like that's first base. But do you mind kind of just walking folks through kind of what the basic framework is?
We're so afraid to say what we're good at. And we're so afraid to...
I'm bragging.
And acknowledge
I don't want to be braggadocious. That's like obnoxious. It doesn't feel like me.
Yeah. It's funny because when especially younger people, you'll say, they're so afraid. They want you to believe they can do everything. And of course you can't. And some of that knowledge, that self-knowledge, comes with experience of sucking at something, frankly. We learn that way. But self-knowledge and awareness, I'm really good at this. But there's something so uncomfortable with saying I'm good at. So when sometimes I'll speak to groups, do keynotes and things like that, and I'll say, so put up your hand, tell me something you're good at. And people look at each other like, hey, I'm not doing that. And I'll say, I'll start. I'm a good parallel parker. Like, how about that? Let's start with something really simple, and then let's move up to, if you want to hire somebody who's really good at this, I feel like I'm as good as anybody. But there's a balance there between saying, here's what I'm really good at, here's what I want you to hire me to do. But if you want to hire me to do these things, you're probably better off looking someplace else. We're so afraid to say that. But I'm telling you, once you can get good at that, you will sit up straighter, you will have more powerful conversations. So we walk you through that process. The second step is reputation management. I mean, I could say I'm a great parallel parker, but if you've been with me and every time I try to parallel park, I hit the car in front of me, I play bumper cars with the ones in front of me behind me, I'm not good at it. If I said to you, I'm a great singer, that is not true. So it's what we think of ourselves, but it also matters what other people think of us. And we all know those people who 100 people could tell them, you're not good at detail management, and then dig in and say, yes, I am. So you have to be realistic. Nobody's good at everything. And so tying together, here's what I think of myself, here's what I like to do, here's what others think of me, are the first two steps. The third is, does what you're good at and what you want to do and how people see you, does that align with what your organization needs or what your profession needs or what your industry needs? So if you're over here saying, I'm so good at this, but your organization is moving this way, you're here and the organization's moving this way, it may not be a long-term fit for you. And it's better to know that now. The fourth is alignment of your personal and professional lives. Can you have the life you want in the company, job, profession, industry you're in? So let's say you've just had twins and you used to travel 70 to 80% of the time. There's a misalignment there. It doesn't mean you can't come back to it someday. So if we think of our career in chapters, I think that's healthier. So for right now, I'm not able to travel 70%, or my parents are aging and I'm an only child. There's certain things I can't do. I want to coach my kid's soccer team. So how does where the organization is going and what the organization requires align with your personal life? I was talking to somebody the other day and they said, they interviewed with a company who's like, we expect 24/7. We expect you to answer the phone at midnight if we need you. And the person was like, yeah, nope. So they walked away. You have to have the courage to walk away if the sectors of your life can't align. And this is true now. It wasn't true 30 years ago, because there is no line between work and home anymore. Technology has made sure of that. I mean, back in the day, if your boss wanted to get a hold of you, they had to get out the white pages and look up your phone number, your home phone number. Right. So
we're the white pages.
Yeah, exactly. Gen Z's like, what's that? Those big phone books they keep putting at our front doors that we throw away. Yeah, that's what it is. And so you have to have the courage to say, here's what's important to me. That's number 4. Number 5 is, based on all of that, what career goals can you set for yourself, or even role goals, goals inside the role you're in? How can you set some achievable career goals? The word career goals makes the phrase career goals makes people go, blah, because it's just so big, but so they think. I've talked to people before and they'll say, well, and I say, here's the deal. Your career goal doesn't have to be end world hunger, or it doesn't have to be, I'm going to own 12 companies. It can literally be, I want to learn more about this, about AI and how AI is going to affect my profession. That's a goal. And so we kind of break it down into pieces that we can navigate. Number 6 is, yes, network building and management. I have a whole thing on network building and how you build your network in a way that doesn't feel like small talk. So my definition of networking is the building of mutually beneficial relationships that support your goals. And so that doesn't mean, so being out here in Scottsdale for the winter, I go to chamber events, the women's chamber events every month. My goal every time is to make one good contact. I have done it every month, but just one, that's enough. Now I have 4 new good contacts. My goal is to not be everybody's BFF who showed up that day. It's how do you make connections based on how do you make mutually beneficial connections? and there's the give and the take. And so you have to build and manage those relationships, because that is still how stuff gets done, through people to people. And then the seventh is intentional career conversations. Now that you have all this set, who do you need to talk to? Do you take your career plan that you've developed in to talk to your boss? Do you take it to inform your search? So now you can begin a job search based on what you know about yourself. So it's really the foundational piece of career management, regardless of where you are in your career or what you do. I would use this process with anybody in any profession. It's just now what we're seeing is Gen Z, they'll quit, they'll bounce, baby. I've talked to some Gen Z people, and they're like, I think I'm going to quit. I'm like, why? I don't know. I just don't see, I don't know. They don't have, and so I was quit and figure it out. I'm like, no. And I know companies are getting frustrated with that too. What if you gave your Gen Z, what if you gave all your employees the ability to develop the self-awareness, to figure out where they fit and to build a path for themselves? And then your role is simply to facilitate. And that's what this is designed to do. So retention and engagement is such a key piece of what companies are looking to do right now, that throwing more money, and there's just so much, oh my God, so much around wages that's going on. People's expectation of wages are coming up. I truly believe that if you pay people fairly, but you give them some of this other stuff also, they will stay. Nobody wants it to be all about money. And so stop pretending it is. Start to listen to your people and give them tools and frameworks with which to be successful in your organization. Oh, and if along the way they realize they can't be successful in your organization, you're better off them leaving now than being disengaged and sitting around, playing on TikTok for 2 years. And so it's really about getting the right people, making sure you got the right people on the bus, and making sure everybody's going the same direction. When people don't know how to articulate what they want, it becomes about money. But as we know, and we've said 1,000 times, money's not what makes you happy.
Yeah. It's funny because when you get a raise, the high lasts for maybe one or two pay cycles.
Yeah.
And then you're like, go for it. It's like, well, that's what I should have been making all along anyway. Hey, I'm still not happy with this.
Right.
But the buzz is over.
Yeah, that's why this stat that, like, when people quit a job and then accept a counteroffer to stay, they end up leaving within a year, like 90% of the time. It's because the thing that caused them to leave probably wasn't money. There were probably other things as well. I talked to this woman. She had quit her job, gone to a new company, and the company she left was like full court press to get her back. And she called me, and I said, have the things that, why did you leave in the first place? And she told me the reason. Has that changed? No. I'm like, well, duh. Why would you go back then? Yeah. So we get this rear view mirror that's all foggy and gauzy, and maybe it wasn't that bad. Well, yeah. And then you go back and go, oh yeah, it was that bad. So you've got to start to make smart decisions based on a process to help guide your career.
Well, what I love about this, Julie, is the last word you just said. It's a process. And so much of whether it's just job search that is complete chaos, or again, this random career pathing that other people are the ones who are, shuttling me to where I'm going next, but creating a process and having the ability to slow down, follow a framework, get it sequentially right. So to your earlier point, I could be networking. Hey, I've got that networking bullet there that you said I should be doing. Yeah, but you didn't go through the first step of self-knowledge and awareness. Like you're kind of got it mismatched. You've got the cart in front of the horse.
Our process is think, plan, execute. So
say that again.
Think, plan, execute. Yeah. Super simple. It applies to all areas of life, but most job seekers jump straight into execute. And that's why I called my book, Stop Peeing on Your Shoes, because that's what they do. And then, then they got to go back and clean it up. And then they settle on anybody that'll have them. And then they wonder why they're not happy.
So this might be an unfair question. So if it is, just say so. But is there one or two of these steps that either are like more important or more foundational, or you see people tripping on more
Yeah.
than others.
Yeah. I would say that number one, the self-knowledge and awareness is absolutely critical. And it's the one that people trip on because we're so not comfortable with it. And
Mm.
so we hurry through that part of it. We hurry through, people will hurry through the questions in my $97 program. I know myself, that's why it's the same reason why people trip over, tell me about yourself, because they're like, well, it's about me. Who knows me better than me? No, I'm not going to trip on that. And then they just throw up all over the place on it.
Yeah.
So the self-knowledge and awareness is probably the one that will trip you up. And it's the one you need to focus. You need to put the most focus on. I would also say network building and management. I would say the same thing. It's really important. People hate it. And so they gloss over it, but it is the lifeblood of your career.
Yeah.
All those other pieces, if you force me to pick 2 out of those 7, I'd say those are foundational. The rest of it really go around that.
Yeah, no, I'm encouraged to hear you say that because that's probably what I would have picked. You have to know your message, your convictions first. What is true for you? And I can't tell you what's true for you. You have to go through, as you say, some of the hard work of figuring out what's true for you
Right.
and being able to put words around that because we often stink at articulating these things. So, what's true for me? How do I communicate that clearly and cogently to somebody else?
Right.
And then to your earlier point, people hire people,
Yeah.
right? ATSs don't hire people.
Nope.
People hire people, and people
Nope.
that I connect with and that I like and that I think, I can trust and all these other things. And yet if we're kind of afraid of doing that, either because again, I'm an introvert, I'm shy, or I'm just so busy working at big company, dawn to dusk.
Yeah.
And I've been here for 27 years. The only people I know are the people who work at big company. And then that something happens and I don't have a network. And I liken that to going to the ATM that you never made deposits into.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, well, I need $1,000 like crazy right this second. It's like, well, dude, you never made any deposits. You
Right.
can't make withdrawals from a thing you never made deposits into.
That's right. And it's this whole idea. You mentioned the 26-year employee. Oh, where's corporate loyalty? Dude, it never existed. Come on. Companies kept you on because they kept everybody on. But the minute they decided they could live without you, they did. So why are we expecting a nameless, faceless corporation to be loyal to you and your family? Your loyalty should be to yourself first. You want to operate with integrity,
That's right.
but your loyalty should be to yourself and your career and your family first. And if your company is a great place for you to reach your goals, wonderful. If it isn't, you need to have the courage to move on.
Yeah, I want to pick up on another theme that you've talked about in this, and it's sort of this alignment of personal and professional lives. If I've never made the introduction to you before, I will afterwards. But we work with True North and a gentleman named Dr. Andy Garrett, and he taught me this a year ago or so. But this notion of work-life balance versus work-life integration.
Yeah.
Work-life balance implies that they're out of like you're just trying to minimize the conflict.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what that basically says versus you're in your flow state when these things are working together and 1 + 1 is 3. And I'm not fighting, I want to be coaching soccer, but I also want to be the divisional manager. Well, you're always going to be in conflict because those aren't consistent goals that you've got. So how do you work at a place in a role that you're happy at that also allows you to be aligned to your personal life?
If I could take my career happiness formula and tattoo it on everybody, or at least make it a thing that you put on your computer, and you ask yourself that question every day. Is this career, this job, serving the life I want? Is it allowing me to build the life I want? Where am I out of balance? And how do I, in the old days, you could go to work, leave in the morning at 7:30 with your coffee, go in the office, leave and come home at 5:30. And if you hated what you did, if you felt like you were putting on a mask and you were having to play a role from 8 to 5, at least when you came home, you might not have been the most pleasant person to be around on the weekends or after 5, but you could literally like walk in the door and that was it. You could engage, watch TV, hang with your kids, do whatever you wanted to do, but we have lost those boundaries. And so it is even more imperative that
right.
And so right, I always liken it to, if you're wearing shoes that are too small, to being like in the wrong job. Let's say the shoes you're wearing are half a size too small. Eventually, not only are you going to have foot problems, you're going to have ankle problems, knee problems, hip problems, and you're probably just going to be unpleasant to be around. It's the same thing with being in a job that doesn't fit. And so constantly asking yourself, does it serve me to still stay here? And stop telling yourself lies about yourself. I had a 33-year-old say to me once he was too old to change careers. And I think I laughed at him, frankly, like out loud. But 55, you can still do other things when you're 55 and 60. So you've got to break some of those tapes you have running in your head about what's possible for you. And if you start to be, I always say, if on Sunday night you're like, oh God, please let me have strep throat so I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I feel sick. I hope I get sick so I don't have to go to work. Really? You start crying in the car on the way to work. Look for some of those things. Listen to the people around you who love you, your spouses, your friends. If all you do is show up and complain about your job, nobody wants to be around you. I purposely stay away from people like that because, so what I do, I'm like, why don't you make a change then? Well, and they got 12 excuses. I'm like, don't even, if you cared that much, you would change. And more is possible for you in your life than you believe it is. I am absolutely convinced of that. I know that. And I've never met anybody for whom that wasn't true. And so I know it's true for your listeners / watchers as well. But yeah, you deserve to have a job that you don't spend most of your time thinking about when you get your next 3-day weekend or your next vacation.
Yeah. So this is what I love about you, Julie, because the medicine is strong. But there's enough sugar in it with your humor and your sweet but you're direct. And I really appreciate the directness because we only have one time around the track. And it's like, my next career, I'm going to be happy. Really? Like, how does that work?
Right.
And But what's different about this, it's one thing to call all these things out. And you and I can intellectually agree that they're true. We've talked to enough people, we know they're true. But what I love about what you've done is given people a map of how to get from here to there. I want to go back to something you were saying earlier, which I think is all kind of wrapped up in the word career, because careers are 40 years or longer, right? As retirement ages get pushed back, or life expectancy, the whole thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, career. Like I just can't even get my mind wrapped around it. And your notion of, so let's do this in chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's break this down into more. I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. You don't know what's going to happen in 5 years.
Right.
But we can plan for this year, next. Let's at least have a plan that we're working on that we can pivot from. But to have no plan is to have no autonomy. And it's this lack of autonomy that actually ends up creating so much unhappiness because they don't feel like they have any agency in their life.
Right.
It's happening.
Right.
My thing is called making your own weather. And that's sort of the notion behind it too, is like, don't complain that it's rainy and cloudy. There are things that you can control that you're not acknowledging that you can control. And again, what I love about what you've built here is a map that's very doable. You don't have to swallow the whole elephant in one bite. You just need to be intentional about doing the work. If the benefits of having say it one more time for me, a career that what's your life, or a job that what's your life?
We all deserve to have a career that serves your life.
There you go. So if you want a career that serves your life, sorry, there's a little bit of work that you have to do, maybe a lot of bit of work that
Yeah.
you have to do. But
Right.
every day from that point forward is going to be so much more worthwhile.
And once you have it, you will become determined not to live without it ever again. And that's what I
Not
love
go back.
about it. It's just, yeah. Once I got to the point where I was directing my day, I didn't feel like work. There was very little that I was avoiding. And I felt like I was in flow. As Gay Hendricks wrote a book about, I forget what it's called, but it's about being in your zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so good. And we have a zone of excellence, but we also have that zone of genius, which is nobody can keep up with us. You are as good as anybody. And I try as much as I can to live in my zone of genius. And that's where it's like, I don't sit and count the days till the weekends because
Right.
I love what I do so much. I don't have any hobbies or interests that actually supersede that. And maybe that'll cause me a problem someday. But for now, I'm spending my time exactly how I want to spend it.
Well, and so that's probably the perfect place to put a bow on this, because that's the goal for everybody.
Yeah, it
So
is.
that
And you can
nothing
have it, but you have to take action. As I always say, the career fairy isn't coming. I wish I could create that. If I did, I'd have my own private island. And we'd be doing I'd invite you to my island, Bob, and we'd do the podcast from there. But that's not a thing. And so, have some courage, believe that you deserve it, because I don't even know you and I know you deserve it.
Yeah, no, this is great. Thank you for doing it.
You're welcome.
You've put 30 years and then another 6 months on top of that, and paid somebody to help you do it, to get all this in a very consumable and affordable package.
Yes.
Whether it is for individuals, and then again, I think I don't want to skip past this, organizations that want to attract and retain people who are fulfilled in their role and not looking to leave you because whatever it is they think they're looking for and defaulting to money, they're not finding.
Yeah.
Well, how do we keep those folks?
How do we keep those folks? And how do we not say, hang in there, Bubba? How do we give them tools? So yeah, whether you are an organization or a professional association that wants to add value to your members, let's talk. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or via our website, but LinkedIn is probably the best.
Yeah,
you can find out more about the program. Front page of our website, it's right there, and you can get started on your journey to career happiness today.
Awesome. Let's flash up the website here in a second so that people can go to that as well. And then you said, Julie, people are welcome to connect with you on LinkedIn also.
Yep. Just say I heard you on Bob's podcast. I put a lot of
Awesome.
stuff on there. I think LinkedIn is it's going to rule the world someday.
It feels like it anyway.
Yeah.
So, Julie, this has been so much fun. I knew that I would learn some cool stuff. I just am such a fan. I appreciate the energy, the enthusiasm, the creativity, but also the practicality and the hope that you're giving people so that they can have that job that helps them live the life that they really want to live. So,
and right back at you. Career Club is amazing. And I love what you're doing with Career Club. I think it's such a valuable resource. And next placement, because outplacement was so outdated. So, kudos right back to you, because I love what you're doing as well.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening. And if you want to connect with Career Club on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, please do. But in the meantime, hope you have a great rest of your week. And again, Julie Bauke, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I know you're gone.